Hi, this is the course, The Problem of Evil. This is one of the most vexing questions Christians get, especially from non-Christians, is relating to the problem of evil. Questions like, why do bad things happen to good people? If God is all good, why does he allow evil? If he's all powerful, why doesn't he destroy evil? These types of questions, they're hard to answer because there's no cut specific answer to them. We often talk about evil acts like murder, rape, robbery, or evil people like Hitler, Stalin, or the pedophile that just violated your daughter. Evil events like tornadoes, hurricanes, lightning strikes, or sicknesses like cancer or Ebola or things like that. But what makes those things evil? Well, before we get into a definition of evil, let me give you a line of reasoning. 1, God is the creator of everything. 2, evil is a thing. 3, therefore, God created evil. How do you answer that? Well, Christians could agree that God is the creator of everything, but I don't think evil's a thing. And if evil is not a thing, then God didn't create evil. That brings us to the central question then, what is the definition of evil? I am so glad you asked that question, because if you didn't, this would be a really short course. First off, evil is not a created thing. I'm going to posit that evil is a corruption of something good. It's a hole in something that should be solid. A good example is rust on a car. Rust can't exist by itself. It has to exist on steel or iron, as in a car. So rust can't exist by itself. I'm going to say evil can't exist by itself. It has to be a corruption of something good. Now, a lot of people will say, well, okay, then evil started when Adam and Eve disobeyed God. I'm going to go back one more. If you take a look at Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, and I know, well, first off, Isaiah is poetry. Isaiah is prophetic literature, and prophetic literature is poetry. And you can't interpret poetry literally all the time. Sometimes you can, but most of the time you can't. But I'm aware that in Isaiah chapter 14, Isaiah is talking about oppressors of Israel. But a lot of times when this happens, especially in this case, he's really talking about the power behind the oppressors. We know that because the way he describes that power is something that a normal person couldn't be. Let me give you this as an example. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, I think, and many theologians think, he's talking about the devil here, about Satan. And he says, how you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. Now, what I'm about to read, a lot of people call the 5 I wills of Satan. A little background material. God consistently refers to himself as I am. When Moses said, hey God, who should I say sent me to go to Pharaoh and to free your people? And God said, I am that I am. God also said, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jesus said, I am the door, I am the good shepherd, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. So there's a lot of I ams that God applies to himself. Satan here is the good angel Lucifer. When God created everything, when he created all the angels and that Adam and Eve, he looked over all the creation and said, it's good. At some point before Adam and Eve were either in the garden or before they encountered the serpent, I believe Satan fell, or Lucifer fell. So Lucifer was a beautiful angel. He was a very high-ranking angel, but pride entered into his heart. Now, angels, like humans, have free will. But let me read this to you. Verse 13, you said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of the assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend to the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. A confirming verse of this is in Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 11. And again, I'm aware he's talking about the king of Tyre, and Tyre is a city in Lebanon. But you can see right away, he starts talking about this person being in the Garden of Eden. Well, the king of Tyre wasn't in the Garden of Eden, wasn't even alive then. So again, this is a case of where it's talking about the power behind the king. It says this, the word of the Lord came to me, that's Ezekiel, Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. And then he goes on to say, every precious stone adorned you. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, and that's an angel. For so I ordained you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created until wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mountain of God, and I expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. And here's the sin of Lucifer. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. And then he goes on to talk more about him. But I think this is the origin of evil. It was the free will of the angel Lucifer. Now, from a few other scriptures in Revelations and some in Psalms, it talks about Lucifer convinced 1/3 of the angels to rebel with him. There was war in heaven. They were cast down to the earth. Those angels, those fallen angels, became demons. And Lucifer became Satan, or the devil. So what is the origin of evil? Free will. In Joshua chapter 24, verse 15, it says this, choose for yourselves this day who you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. So humans were created with free will. And free will is the origin of evil, not God. Now, did God know that we could choose evil and not God's ways? Yeah, because God knows everything. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But God made us with free will, the ability to choose. So we could freely choose him, but we could also freely choose not him, or that which, anything that is not of God, you could say is evil. Free will gives us that ability to choose evil as well as good. That's a risk God knowingly took when he created us with free will. We have a choice to make. Now, before we get into some of those other things, and I'm sure there are questions popping up in your mind, but I want to point out something that a lot of people maybe don't really know or they wonder about. When God put Adam in the garden, he gave Adam and Eve dominion over the entire created order, over the cosmos. And when Adam and Eve fell, when they chose evil, the whole created cosmos fell with them. God says in Genesis chapter 3, verse 17, and he's talking to Adam here, and he says, to Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree which I commanded you, you must not eat from, cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, so you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and unto dust you will return. So all of creation fell with Adam and Eve. So if you're wondering about animals, insects, especially mosquitoes, that's my pet thing, earthquakes, tornadoes, lightning, storms, all of nature fell with Adam and Eve. In Romans chapter 8, Paul uses a figure of speech called personification. Personification is when you attribute a living thing to an inanimate object. In this case, he takes nature overall, or the created world overall, and says, you know what? All of nature is just waiting for the consummation, for the return of Christ, when all things will be made new, because all of nature is going to be made new. And it says this in Romans chapter 8, let's start in verse 18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed or redeemed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it, and that was Adam, in hope that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. We know that the whole of creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. Not only so, but we ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we eagerly await for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. So all of nature fell when humanity fell, but all of nature will be redeemed when humanity will be redeemed. And in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 1, it says, Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. In verse 4, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And in chapter 22, verse 3, it says, No longer will there be any curse. The throne of God and of the Lamb will be in the city, and his servants will see him. So, all of creation is going to be redeemed when Christ returns. Wow, can you imagine what that'll be like? You'll be able to go up and pet a lion. You know, the often repeated phrase, which is a little inaccurate, there's more to the phrase than this, but it says, the lion will lie down with the lamb. Won't that be great? From my point of view, there'll be no more mosquitoes. I'll be able to go and walk at 10 o'clock at night and see beautiful scenery, and I'll be able to walk in short sleeves and a pair of shorts, and I won't get bit. We'll be able to swim in the ocean. We'll be able to play with the sharks. Wow, won't that be interesting? All of creation will be redeemed at that point. That's a future worth fighting for, Christians. But let's get back to earth now, and we have to ask ourselves, okay, can evil be stopped? Well, how would you respond to this argument? If God is all good, he would destroy evil. If God is all powerful, he could destroy evil. But evil's not destroyed. Therefore, there's no God. That's another line of reasoning that a lot of people will bring up to Christians. Well, I think some of those things are good, but you have to consider a few things. If you destroy evil, since the origin of evil is our free will, you're automatically destroying free will. And that would be evil in itself. So we need to talk not about destroying, we need to talk about overcoming evil, not destroying evil. Another point, just because evil is not overcome yet, doesn't mean that it won't eventually be overcome. This is a process. We're in that process. The Bible definitely says evil will be overcome at some point in the future. We're not there yet. So if God is all powerful, why doesn't he destroy evil? Well, easy, because he would have to destroy free will and us with it. And he won't do that. A good analogy is we could destroy the drug problem in the U.S. like that. We could do it right now. You know how? We could kill all the drug dealers and the drug users. Boom. Assassinate them. Your drug problem is gone. But we won't do that. Why? Because that's evil. So we have to, just like we have to talk about overcoming the drug problem, we have to talk about overcoming evil. Again, God won't destroy evil because he would have to destroy free will and hence humanity with it, and he won't do that.